Hi there, and welcome to Forsaken Joe. Buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you feels like something out of a twisted movie, but I swear every single word is real. It all started with the sound of champagne glasses clinking. The crowd was laughing, the band was playing some soft jazz tune, and I remember thinking, wow, maybe this day really is perfect. Then Eleanor stood up for her toast, my wife, my bride of exactly 4 hours. She looked stunning, and I swear everyone's eyes were glued to her like she was some goddess glowing under those warm reception lights. She began softly, thanking everyone for coming, smiling at me like nothing was wrong. And then, her smile changed. It was the tiniest shift, but I felt it in my gut. She took a deep breath and said, "I can't pretend anymore. I can't stand here and lie. There's someone in this room who's always been my true love." Everyone chuckled nervously, assuming it was me. I even forced a weak smile, but then she turned her head and locked eyes with Henry, my best friend since high school. It was like time stopped. I swear I heard my own heartbeat over the silence. Eleanor's voice shook as she continued. "Henry, it's you. It's always been you. I love you." The room erupted into chaos, gasps, whispers, someone even dropped a fork. I stood there, frozen, with my hand gripping the table so hard I felt my nails digging into the wood. Henry looked like someone had slapped him, his face drained of all color. And me? I couldn't move, couldn't speak. I just felt hollow, like my entire chest had collapsed. My mom's eyes filled with tears. My dad tried to stand up, but I waved him off. I didn't want anyone to save me, not there, not in front of everyone. I got up quietly, like some ghost of the man who had been smiling just minutes earlier. I didn't yell, didn't ask for explanations. I walked out. The sound of my shoes against the marble floor felt deafening. I could hear people calling my name, but I didn't stop. Now, I'm sitting here hours later, still wearing the same tux, staring at my phone. Eleanor's outside the guest house, pounding on the door and crying. Henry's been calling me non-stop, swearing he had no idea, begging me to talk to him. But how do you even begin to process something like this? After I left the wedding hall, I drove aimlessly for nearly an hour, not even realizing I was still wearing the boutonniere on my jacket. Every time my phone buzzed, it was like a knife twisting deeper into my stomach. Eleanor's messages came in waves, some begging, some apologizing, some angry. And then there were Henry's calls, each one making me feel sicker than the last. He left me voicemails that I can't even bring myself to listen to. I just keep imagining his voice cracking, saying things like, "Man, I didn't know. I swear I didn't." But all I can hear in my head is her voice, calm, steady, almost proud, confessing her love for him while wearing the ring I put on her finger just hours earlier. When I finally got to my brother's guest house, I parked the car and just sat there, staring at my hands. My hands which were supposed to hold her tonight. My hands which built this life we were supposed to start together. Now, they just feel useless. I don't know how long I sat there, but when I finally walked inside, I saw the bottle of whiskey my brother keeps for emergencies. I'm not a big drinker, but I swear I finished half of it without tasting a drop. Around midnight, there was a knock at the door, then pounding. I looked through the window and saw her, Eleanor, standing there barefoot in her wedding dress, mascara running down her cheeks, hair tangled like she'd been clawing at it. She was crying so hard I could barely recognize her face. For a second, my heart almost softened. Almost. But then I remembered the look in her eyes when she said Henry's name, the way she didn't even hesitate. I didn't open the door. I just stood there, watching her from the shadow of the hallway, my hands shaking like I was made of glass. She started begging. "Howard, please, just let me explain. I didn't mean it like that. I don't know what I was thinking." Her voice was raw, desperate. I could hear the guests in the distance leaving the reception hall, cars pulling out of the lot, laughter fading. But her cries stayed, echoing off the walls like a haunting I couldn't escape. At one point, she screamed Henry's name, not mine, his. That was when I realized I couldn't open the door even if I wanted to. I sank to the floor, back against the wall, trying to stop myself from shaking. The image of her standing there, confessing her love to someone else while I sat like an idiot next to her, played over and over in my head until I thought I might lose my mind. I don't know when I fell asleep, but I woke up at 4 a.m. to silence. She was gone. My phone had 43 missed calls, half from her, half from Henry, and one from my mom, which I still haven't had the guts to return. I know she's worried. She's probably wondering if I've gone off the deep end. Maybe I have. What I can't stop thinking about is this. Why did Eleanor do it? Was she trying to ruin everything on purpose? Was she hoping Henry would stand up and stop the wedding, like in some cheap romance movie? Or has she been living a lie this entire time, waiting for the moment to rip the truth out like it was poison? By the time the sun crawled over the horizon, my phone felt like it had become part of my hand. I just kept staring at the screen, scrolling through Eleanor's messages without really reading them. I didn't have the courage to reply, but I couldn't stop looking either. It was like I was waiting for the moment when something she said would make sense, when she'd magically explain why she destroyed me in front of everyone I love. But that moment never came. Instead, I kept seeing the same pathetic words. Please talk to me. I need you. It made me want to throw the phone against the wall. At 7 a.m., Henry showed up. He didn't even call. He just walked up the driveway and started knocking on the door. The sound made my skin crawl. I froze, standing in the middle of the living room like a cornered animal. Part of me wanted to ignore him. Another part wanted to open the door and punch him until I couldn't feel my hands anymore. But when I looked through the window and saw his face, all that rage collapsed into something else, something I wasn't ready to admit. He looked broken. I opened the door just enough to see him clearly. He was wearing the same suit from last night, only now the tie was hanging loose and his shirt was wrinkled like he had slept in his car. His eyes were bloodshot. He didn't even say hello. He just whispered, "Howard, man, I need to explain. Please!" I didn't let him in. I stood in the doorway, gripping the edge of the door so hard my knuckles turned white. "Explain?" I said, my voice shaking. "What exactly are you going to explain, Henry? That my wife is in love with you? That my best friend was the real star of my wedding night?" He shook his head violently, his hands up like he was surrendering. "No, no, no. It's not like that. I swear to you, I had no idea. I don't love her. I never did. He stopped himself, biting his lip like he had said too much. That pause. It killed me. It made my chest ache with a whole new level of suspicion. "We what, Henry?" I snapped. "Go on, finish it." "We what?" His shoulders dropped like the weight of the world was pressing down on them. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw guilt in his eyes. "We kissed once," he admitted, voice low, like the words burned his throat. "It was a long time ago, before you two were even serious. It was stupid. We were drunk. I swear it meant nothing. I felt like someone had sucker punched me. My knees almost gave out." "You kissed my wife," I said slowly, trying to process the words. "You kissed Eleanor, and you didn't think to tell me?" "Because it was nothing!" he shouted, then lowered his voice when he realized he was raising it. "She told me she regretted it, that she wanted you, and I believed her. I moved on. I thought it was buried. I thought you two were happy." The anger I'd been holding back all night came boiling up. I wanted to slam the door in his face, but instead, I stepped outside, standing inches from him. "So what, Henry? You kissed her? She lied to me? And now she stands up on our wedding day and confesses she loves you? Do you know how pathetic that makes me look? Do you know how much I hate myself right now for trusting both of you?" Henry's eyes filled with tears, but I didn't care. I didn't care if he cried, begged, or tried to explain. I felt like I was standing on quicksand, and every word out of his mouth just pulled me deeper under. Then he said something I'll never forget. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Howard, I think she's been planning this. Not with me, but with someone. She's not who you think she is." I froze. "What the hell are you talking about?" I asked, my voice suddenly quieter. "There's stuff you don't know," he said, glancing nervously around as if someone was listening. "It's stuff she told me years ago, things she said about you, about your family. I think she's using you, man. I think this wedding, everything, was never about love." I swear my blood turned cold. I didn't even know what to say. My wife, the woman I loved more than anything, was now being painted as some kind of manipulative stranger by the one person I trusted most. I slammed the door in Henry's face, but his words stuck like needles in my brain. Inside, I paced the living room for what felt like hours, replaying every moment of our relationship. The late-night phone calls she said were work, the times she avoided introducing me to her coworkers, the weird tension between her and my mom that I never understood. It all started feeling like pieces of a puzzle I didn't want to finish. After Henry left, I couldn't sit still. My hands wouldn't stop trembling, and my head was pounding as if I'd been hit with a brick. His words kept replaying in my mind. She's not who you think she is. I wanted to ignore it, to convince myself that he was just trying to shift the blame for that kiss. But something about the way he said it felt too real, too heavy. And the worst part was, I already had doubts. I just didn't want to face them until now. I found myself walking around the guest house like a madman, opening drawers and cupboards as if I'd find some magic answer inside. Instead, I grabbed my phone and, with shaking hands, I started scrolling through Eleanor's social media. It wasn't anything obvious, no incriminating pictures, no flirty comments. But then I saw something that made my stomach twist. There was an old photo from 4 years ago, a group shot at a party, and right there, next to Eleanor, was Henry. His arm wasn't around her, but the way she was looking at him, it wasn't just friendly. I had never noticed it before, maybe because I didn't want to see it. Then I remembered something. A few weeks before the wedding, Eleanor had gone on a work trip for 3 days. I hadn't thought much of it at the time, but now I couldn't stop wondering who she was really with. I pulled up our text messages from that week, scrolling back frantically. And there it was. Day 2 of her trip, she had sent me a single message. Busy all day, babe. I'll call tonight. Except she never did. I remember falling asleep waiting for her call and waking up to some half-hearted excuse about bad Wi-Fi. Back then I believed her. Now it felt like another knife in my back. I tried calling her, just to hear her voice, to maybe catch some hint of truth or lies. She didn't answer. Instead, she sent me a long text that made my blood boil. Howard, I love you. What happened last night was a mistake. I was emotional. I didn't mean to hurt you. Please don't throw this all away. I need you to come back to me. A mistake? She called publicly, confessing her love for my best friend a mistake. Like it was a spilled drink or forgetting to pay a bill. The audacity of it made me want to scream. By afternoon, I decided I couldn't sit around anymore. I needed answers. I drove back to our house. Well, the house that now feels like a crime scene of broken trust. And I half expected Eleanor to be waiting on the porch. She wasn't. Instead, when I unlocked the door, the place was silent. I walked in and instantly felt this heaviness, like every photo frame, every little note we left for each other, had turned into evidence of a life that might have been fake. I don't even know what made me do it, but I went into her closet and started going through her things. Maybe I wanted to find proof of who she really is, and I did. At the bottom of one of her drawers, hidden under a pile of sweaters, I found a small shoebox tied with a ribbon. Inside were letters, not from me. The handwriting wasn't familiar, but the words made my skin crawl. I can't stop thinking about you, one said. I hate that we have to pretend, another read. There were at least 10 of them, some dating back months. None of them were signed, but one of them mentioned a place Henry and I used to hang out as teenagers, an old diner on Maple Street. My mind started spiraling. Was it Henry? Was he lying this whole time? Or was there someone else entirely, someone I didn't even know existed? I sat there on the bedroom floor, surrounded by those letters, and for the first time in my life, I felt like my entire existence was built on quicksand. I thought Eleanor and I were soulmates. I thought we were building something real, but now I'm not even sure I know her at all. As I was sitting there, my phone buzzed again. It was Henry. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I had to. His voice on the other end was shaky. Howard, we need to talk, not about the wedding, about Eleanor. There's something I didn't tell you, something I should have said years ago. And that's when I knew I had to hear him out. No matter how much I hated him, I needed to know the truth. I met Henry that same evening. We agreed to meet at a quiet coffee shop on the edge of town, a place so empty it felt like no one else in the world existed. I almost turned around twice on my way there, because every nerve in my body was screaming at me to just cut him off completely. But I needed answers. I needed to know who Eleanor really was, even if the truth would burn me alive. When I walked in, Henry was already there, slouched in a booth with a cup of coffee he hadn't touched. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. His tie was gone, his hair a mess, and his face had this strange mix of guilt and fear. I slid into the seat across from him, my heart pounding like a war drum. Before I could even speak, Henry started. Howard, there's something I should have told you a long time ago, and I don't know how you're going to take it. He rubbed his hands over his face and sighed. Eleanor, she's not just complicated, she's dangerous. Dangerous. That word hit me like a bullet. I wanted to laugh it off, but the look on Henry's face stopped me cold. He leaned forward, lowering his voice like he was afraid someone might overhear. "Do you remember when I dated her roommate years ago? The girl, Melissa?" I nodded. Melissa had vanished from our social circles, but I never thought much about it. "Well," Henry continued, "Melissa told me something back then. Something I didn't want to believe. She said Eleanor was obsessed with people needing her. She liked to manipulate situations just to see if she could control them. Melissa even claimed Eleanor once sabotaged her own relationship with me, just to test if I'd chase after her." I sat there, jaw clenched, trying to process it. Was he trying to make Eleanor out to be some sort of sociopath? "Henry, are you saying she's been playing me this whole time?" I asked, my voice trembling. "That's exactly what I'm saying," he replied, his eyes burning with intensity. "The kiss we had years ago, it wasn't random. She set it up. She wanted to see how far she could push things, how much she could make me feel guilty and dependent on her. And now, after what she did at your wedding, Howard, I don't think that was some emotional slip. I think she wanted you to walk out." The room suddenly felt smaller, like the walls were closing in. I thought about the letters I found in her closet, the ones talking about secrets and pretending. "If it's not you, then who the hell is writing her those letters?" I asked, pulling out my phone to show him the photos I'd taken of them. Henry read them with a deep frown and shook his head. "That's not my handwriting. But look here, Maple Street Diner, that's where Eleanor and I used to hang out after work years ago. Why would someone mention that unless it's someone who knows both of us?" We both sat there, silent, while my stomach churned like acid. Then Henry said something that froze me in place. "Howard, what if she's seeing someone else? Someone neither of us know about. She's been lying for so long, I don't think either of us have the full story." By the time I left that coffee shop, my mind was spinning like a storm. I drove back home, barely aware of the road, the headlights of other cars blurring as I tried to piece everything together. When I walked inside, the house was dark, except for a single light in the kitchen. Eleanor was sitting at the table, her dress from last night crumpled in a heap on the floor. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen from crying. She looked up when I entered, her voice barely a whisper. "Howard, can we talk?" I wanted to scream at her, demand the truth, but I just stood there, gripping the doorway so hard it hurt. She started to speak, but then my phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from an unknown number flashed on the screen. "You don't know the real Eleanor. Ask her about the lake." I froze, my hand trembling around the phone. The lake? I didn't even know what that meant. But the way Eleanor's face went white when she saw me reading that message told me one thing. This rabbit hole was deeper than I could have ever imagined. When I read that message, "You don't know the real Eleanor. Ask her about the lake." My entire body went cold. I didn't even realize I was holding my breath until my chest started to ache. Eleanor, who had been sitting silently at the kitchen table, saw my face and instantly tensed up. "Who's that from?" she asked, her voice barely audible but sharp, like a warning. I didn't answer her right away. I just stood there, holding my phone like it was a grenade that could go off at any second. When I finally looked at her, I asked the question that had already lodged itself in my brain like a splinter. "What's at the lake, Eleanor?" Her face changed in an instant. It wasn't just fear. It was the kind of fear that looks like someone's entire world is about to unravel. "Howard, please, not now. We need to talk about last night, not—" "No," I interrupted, my voice shaking but firm. "We will talk about last night, but right now you're going to tell me why some stranger is warning me about a lake. What happened there? What are you hiding?" She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Instead, she stood up slowly, like a cornered animal, and started pacing the kitchen. "You don't understand," she said finally. "It was years ago, before you, before any of this. I can't—" She stopped, covering her face with her hands. That reaction wasn't guilt over some old memory. It was something darker, something that made my stomach twist. I pulled the box of letters from my bag and slammed it on the table. "I found these. I know about the notes, Eleanor. I know someone else is writing to you, someone you've been meeting behind my back. And now, I get this text. If you don't start talking right now, I swear to God, I'm walking out of this house and never coming back." She froze, her hands trembling as she looked at the letters. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she sank into the chair, her eyes empty. "The lake," she said quietly, almost like she was talking to herself. "I knew this would come back someday." What the hell does that mean? I demanded. Eleanor looked up at me, her eyes filled with a kind of pain I'd never seen in her before. There was someone I used to see before you. We would meet at this lake outside of town. It was complicated. He was married and She stopped, biting her lip so hard I thought she might draw blood. He died, Howard. He drowned there. And it was my fault. The room went silent. I felt like my heart stopped beating. What do you mean it was your fault? I asked, my voice a whisper now. Tears spilled down her cheeks, but she didn't look away. We had an argument by the water. I told him I didn't love him anymore, that I wanted to leave. He went into the lake drunk, screaming at me, and he never came back up. I didn't call for help. I just left. I panicked. I stood there, frozen, trying to comprehend what I'd just heard. My wife was confessing to me that she had left a man to die. And the worst part? I didn't know if I believed that it was an accident. Who sent that message? I asked, my voice sharper now. I don't know, she said, shaking her head violently. I swear I don't know. I never told anyone except Henry, and she stopped mid-sentence. The realization hit me like a truck. You told Henry? I asked. You told him about this? And you didn't tell me? Eleanor flinched but didn't deny it. He was there for me when it happened. He knows more about that time in my life than anyone. I didn't think you'd understand. I laughed, a bitter, broken laugh. Oh, I understand now. It all makes sense. The way you look at him, the way you confessed your love for him in front of everyone. He's the one who knows the real Eleanor, right? The version of you that leaves people to die in lakes. She slapped me. I don't even remember feeling it. I just stood there, staring at her like she was a stranger, like the woman I married never really existed. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound in the house felt amplified. Every creak of the floorboards a reminder that I was living with someone who had secrets buried deeper than I could even imagine. When I finally checked my phone again, there was another message from that same unknown number. She's lying. The lake was just the beginning. I don't know why, but reading that sent a chill down my spine that I can't shake. What if Eleanor's hiding something even worse? What if Henry's been part of it all along? I barely slept that night. I just sat there in the dark living room, staring at my phone like it was a lifeline and a curse at the same time. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that message again. She's lying. The lake was just the beginning. I couldn't shake the image of Eleanor standing there, admitting she had left someone to die. The way she said it, the strange calmness underneath the tears, it didn't feel like guilt. It felt like she was hiding something else, something much bigger. At around 3 a.m., I decided to do something stupid. I replied to the unknown number. I typed, "Who are you? What do you know about Eleanor?" For 10 minutes, there was nothing, and I thought maybe I'd scared them off. Then my phone buzzed. The reply was short, but it made my blood run cold. Meet me at the old Maple Street Diner tomorrow at noon. Come alone. You need to know the truth. I stared at that message for so long that my eyes started to sting. I didn't even realize Eleanor had walked into the room until she spoke. "Who are you texting?" she asked, her voice still hoarse from crying. I shoved my phone into my pocket like a guilty teenager and muttered something about checking emails, but the look she gave me told me she didn't believe a word of it. The next morning, I woke up feeling like my head was full of broken glass. I didn't talk to Eleanor, didn't answer her questions, didn't even look at her. I just grabbed my keys and drove. When I got to the Maple Street Diner, the place was almost empty. A few old regulars sat by the windows drinking coffee, but no one looked like they were waiting for me. I sat in the back booth, my hands sweating, scanning every face that walked through the door. After 20 minutes, a man walked in. He looked to be in his late 40s, with a weathered face and eyes that had seen far too much. He slid into the booth across from me, without asking, and said, "You're Howard." It wasn't a question. "Who the hell are you?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. "I'm the brother of the man Eleanor left to die at that lake," he said flatly, without any hesitation. My breath caught in my throat. "You're saying you know about what happened?" "I know everything," he said, leaning in closer. "And I know she's been lying to you since the day you met her. That night at the lake wasn't just an accident. My brother, his name was Eric, was planning to leave her. He found out something about her, something dark. She didn't want him talking, and the next thing I know, he's dead. And now you're married to her? Do you even realize what kind of woman she is?" I didn't know what to say. My mouth went dry. The man pulled out an old photo from his jacket and pushed it across the table. It was a picture of Eleanor and Eric together. I recognized her instantly. Same smile, same eyes, but there was something off. Her face in that photo wasn't the Eleanor I knew. It was colder, harder. "Why are you telling me this?" I finally managed to ask. "Because you're next," he said simply. "She has a pattern. She ruins people. She drains them, manipulates them. And when she's done, she finds a way to destroy them. Ask Henry. Ask him why he really stopped seeing her years ago. He knows. He's just too scared to admit it." I left the diner feeling like I had been punched in the stomach. My head was spinning. If even half of what this man said was true, then I had married a woman who wasn't just a liar, but something much worse. On my way home, I called Henry. He didn't pick up, but I left a message that probably sounded more like a threat than a request. "We need to talk. Today. No more lies." When I walked into the house, Eleanor was waiting in the kitchen, her eyes swollen from crying, her hair pulled back in a messy knot. She looked at me like she'd been watching the clock all day. "Where were you?" she asked. I didn't answer. I just stared at her. For the first time since this all started, I wasn't sure if I was looking at my wife or at the person who might have killed a man. When I walked into the house, I felt like I was stepping onto a battlefield. Eleanor was standing in the kitchen, looking fragile, yet strangely defiant, while Henry was already there, leaning against the counter with a tense expression. I had called him earlier and told him to come over because I was done living in the dark. I wanted every single truth laid out, no matter how much it hurt. "Both of you sit," I said, my voice shaking but louder than I expected. They obeyed, like they both knew there was no escaping this conversation. I put my phone on the table and told them about the man at the diner, about Eric, about the lake. Eleanor's face turned pale, and Henry just stared at me, wide-eyed. Eleanor took a long breath. "Howard, please, that man, Eric, he was someone I dated a long time ago. What happened at the lake? It wasn't like I told you. He didn't drown because of me. He had a seizure in the water. I panicked, yes, but by the time I called for help, it was too late. I blamed myself for years. I kept it a secret because I thought no one would believe me, and I didn't want you to see me as broken." Henry finally spoke. "She's telling the truth, Howard. I knew Eric too. I was there that night, sort of. I was the one who got the call when it happened. She was terrified and begged me not to tell anyone. I didn't say anything because I thought she deserved a fresh start. She wasn't lying to hurt you, man. She was just scared of losing you." I sat there, silent, trying to untangle the web of emotions flooding my head. Anger, relief, confusion, they all came at once. But then Eleanor took my hand, her fingers trembling. "Howard, I messed up at the wedding. I was overwhelmed. I looked at Henry because he's been part of my past, but I never stopped loving you. I only love you. I'm so sorry I ruined our day. Please, don't let this be the end of us." For a long time, I didn't answer. I thought about everything, about the years we'd spent together, about the way she still looked at me when I caught her off guard, like I was her safe place. And, as much as I hated what she'd done, I knew in my heart that I didn't want to lose her. "Then we start over," I finally said, my voice quiet but steady. "No more lies, no more secrets. If we're going to make this work, you have to give me all of you, Eleanor, and I'll give you all of me, even the weak, pathetic parts you've seen too much of already." She broke down crying, not the guilty kind of crying I'd seen before, but the kind that felt real. Henry looked relieved, like a weight had been lifted. And for the first time in days, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I could breathe again. We decided to have a small ceremony later, just for us. No big crowds, no drama, just a chance to rewrite our story the way it should have been from the start. Henry promised to keep his distance until we were ready, and I believed him. So here I am, sharing this crazy story with all of you. Maybe it's messy, maybe I'm a fool for forgiving her, but love isn't clean. It's complicated. And sometimes it's worth fighting for, even when the world tells you to run. What about you guys? Have you ever had a moment in life when someone's shocking confession completely turned your world upside down, but somehow it led to something better? Tell me in the comments below. And don't forget, you're on Forsaken Joe, where we share the wildest, rawest stories the internet has to offer.